Hi, welcome to my new channel. My name's Sam and this is Sam's Tarot. Going to start off this channel with the first video just kind of being a flip through one of my more, I won't call it my basic deck, but it is my study and reference deck, which is the Golden Universal Tarot. It uses typical Rider-Waite Smith iconography. I said that word wrong and I'm going to end up saying a lot of words wrong, so you'll learn to deal with that. But anyway, it has a lot of the icons and stuff that you are used to seeing with the RWS deck. The only difference really is a little more different artwork, but staying in the same theme. With the Golden series, they also put on some gold foil. I'll try to have the light reflect this a little bit. So it gives a shimmering effect, if you will. It's a pretty nice deck, and like I said, I actually use this as my study and reference deck. And so how I use it and what I do, here's the back, by the way. What I do is I usually typically draw one or two cards a night before going to bed, and I use these little easels, which are perfect for the size of card. And I will simply put them on the easel facing me in bed, and I'll do a short meditation on them. I will generally, if I need to, look up a meaning, which I will use anything from the little white book to something like this book, Tarot Book of Correspondences, by Susan Chang, T. Susan Chang. So for something like the Deviant Moon Tarot, then I'll use its own source book, of course. And then the other thing that I do is I will also usually watch at least one, if not two, videos dealing with that particular card. There is a lovely lady, her name is Madeline. She does contemporary tarot, and so at night I'm often doing my meditation, and then I actually watch and listen to her videos about the individual cards as well. And what this does is just help cement the meanings of the cards in it for me. And of course, because I'm doing it at a time and place close to going to sleep, this will often evolve and go into some dream work. And of course, the unconscious mind will often dwell on what has happened throughout the day, of course, but with something so fresh as this, as a meditation right before bed, it is not uncommon for me to have aspects of the meanings of the cards, sometimes the symbology, in my dreams, which is a real cool thing. I absolutely love it. I started reading the Tarot, I guess I was about 13, maybe 14 at tops, and lived in a little town of Blaine, Washington. It's right up on the Canadian border in Washington, but just a small town. And the Catholic Church was having a flea market, and it was down at a community center thing, and somebody was actually doing and reading the Tarot there. And that was when I had first had the Tarot read for me. And it was a really neat experience. And a lot of what was said then, I can tell has not come to pass. And some things did come to pass, but it was a neat experience. And my mom, being tickled that I liked it so much and thought the cards were neat, bought me my first deck, which was just a Rider-Waite Smith deck, and a book. I think it was Tarot in 10 Minutes. No, that doesn't sound right. Not Tarot in 10 Minutes. That was a different book that I bought down the road. It was a blue book, though, and I want to say her name was Eden or something Eden. Anyways, old like paperback, dime store paperback type, which just went over briefly what the Tarot was, and then, of course, individual meanings. And this all actually kind of happened around the summertime. Now we're talking, this is all the way back in like the early 80s, so Um, During the summer when school wasn't in session, I would often end up going to, with my mom. She was a big bingo player back then, so I'd end up going to play bingo with my mom. Of course, I'm too young to play bingo, so what I would do is actually sit there and play with the cards and do readings uh, while my mom and her friends played bingo. And on the occasion on a break or something, one of the ladies would, slip me $1 or two for me to read their cards. So that was how I actually started reading the tarot. And then over the years, I started collecting decks, and in my real early 20s, late teens, when I was going to college, I spent a lot of time, aside from partying, I spent a lot of time in coffee shops where I would end up studying, playing chess, and I would bring my tarots. I had like several decks, so I usually bring at least a couple decks with me. And I would sit there and read people their tarot that paid. And I had a little, and back then this was all legal. It looks like I got a little mark on that card. No, that's a cloud cover. See the mark in the star there? It's just another cloud kind of covering it. Anyway, where was I in my story? I'll remember where I was going here in a minute. So I would have, it was legal back then to kind of do business in shops if you were doing like fortune telling and little stuff. And I should also say this was also in California too, back in the day. So at this point now we're talking 1990 through 1992. And so I'd have a little sign up while I was drinking my coffee and doing my thing. Tarot readings, suggested donation, $5. And remarkably, I actually would do at least, anywhere from 2 to half a dozen reads a day for people, and that kept my coffee habit up when I was that young, and actually, of course, gave me some extra money to collect more decks. Right around in the same time period, early 20s, I also gave up on the tarot for a while. Actually ended up giving up my decks and gave up tarot in general. And over the next decade or so, decade and a half, I would have a tarot deck here and there. Usually a top tarot, because that was, back in the day, was my main go-to. And always had one or two. And then last year, had kind of a revelation that, I really missed my tarot studies. And so, lo and behold, I come to find out that, over the last 20 years while the internet was growing, and I was very away from the tarot, or even when I would have my deck or two, very reclusive and hermetic about it. Here's this big community, and it seems like a lot of people are doing tarot. And then I was saddened to find some of my favorite decks had either changed over time or were no longer in print. A couple big examples, of course, was the Thoth deck no longer came with the 3 different magician cards. Only come with 1. Now I did was to learn here actually. I guess it was earlier this year that was due to legal issues between the OTO and the various publishers of the Thoth deck, which included Lo Scarabeo and Lillian. Yeah. Did I mention I'll mispronounce several words? Okay, making sure. So that was a change. And actually one of the bigger changes, like I actually had a hard time wrapping my brain around. But once I learned about the legal aspect, I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. Of course, at this point, I no longer had neither the white box deck or the blue box deck, so I have a modern deck now that just has the single mages. The other favorite deck of mine that I was surprised to find out wasn't in print, because I remember it being a great deck, don't get me wrong, but also a cheap deck. It was called the Mythic Tarot. And the Mythic Tarot, you got the guidebook, the deck of tarot, and a reading cloth that you would be able to spread out to read the cards on. And I was very surprised to find out that it was no longer in print, no longer in production. There was something called the New Mythic Tarot, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of the artwork. That doesn't mean I won't get it again one day, but I will. So like I said, I started taking back up tarot late last year, and I've been studying and collecting since pretty steadily. At this point, I've got it's either 16 or 17 decks. I have to actually count again. Several books, everything from the first couple books in the Los Gabriel. And again, if I'm mispronouncing these words, you'll just have to forgive me. Encyclopedia 3-book set. I got the first 2 books. Several books on things like the correspondence. One of my favorites, and this is kind of how much of a tarot geek I am, the Encyclopedia Tarot, Volume 1. I'm going to do a book review on this in a future video, but if you're a geek about tarot like I am and want to learn a lot about the historic decks, how they developed over time and in what different regions of Europe that they came from, etc., especially when it comes to like the Marseille's deck and the Visconti decks, even the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. These the Encyclopedia Tarot, which is in 4 volumes, is a must. I believe I think it's the 4th one is no longer it's either out of print or in between of printing right now, so that one's quite pricey if you were to price it on Amazon. Volumes 2 and 3, I believe, are in the same kind of boat, and thus they go for like 2 or 3 times the amount you would the cover price. Volume 1 is the only one you can still really, that I found anyway, that you can still grab at cover price. So if you get an opportunity, I would strongly recommend getting those. But again, these will all happen and for book reviews and stuff like that over time, as well as other decks read-throughs. I'm again starting off with kind of a basic deck like this. First off, it's my go-to deck right now because of study and reference, but not just that, it's honestly getting me used to talking to the camera and getting over the insecurity and stuff like, man, there's going to be people watching this and they're going to be highly critique and yada yada yada. And so figure by starting with a basic like deck like this, I'm going to stop calling it a basic deck because it is a beautiful deck. I absolutely love the artwork. I love the gold foils. I love how the light plays on it. But anyway, I figured I'd start with this deck because while I realize this won't be a review necessarily a lot of people will see or want to see, it still gets me used to that concept of talking to the camera and finding out and showing the deck off with the light that I have and the equipment that I have. So while I'm doing this one, this review, my next review is probably going to be my Thoth deck because I'm fairly familiar with the Thoth deck as well as the RWS decks. And I would also, of course, invite you to hit that like button down below. If you would like to see the next videos as they come out, by all means, I would love for you to subscribe. Let me know what deck you use down below in the comments. Let's start up a conversation. I know that the community, tarot community here on YouTube is pretty strong. I know aside from Madeline, I know I watch and hear a lot from Boho Tarot, uh, Anthony from Tarot Academy. Oh, and why am I blanking his name? He's such a nice guy. He does the Hermit Cave. And I'm blanking his name because, that would be me blanking right in the middle of this. But anyway, absolutely lovely guy. Has a lot to say, and he says it well. So anyway, if you get a chance to see any of those people that I've mentioned, by all means, make sure you check out their videos too. And in the future, you'll see more videos from me, from deck reviews and book reviews to I plan on participating in the next, well, let me explain this first. Anthony actually puts out a thing every year called the 31 Days of Tarot. It's usually in January. And it's kind of a community response thing. She puts out, here's what today's topic is, and then everyone responds to that topic. And it's a great way for everyone in the community to kind of talk to one another, gain exposure, etc. I plan on joining in this next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if I end up actually participating this year, but like way after the fact, since it was done way back in January, and I'm doing this here in the middle of August. So anyway, that's going to be it for now. I appreciate you joining me and listening to me drone on. And if you have any comments, please leave them in the comments field below. I'd love to get a conversation started. Please hit that like button. Let me know that you saw the video. That would be awesome. And then, of course, hit that subscribe button too, and a little notification bell so that you'll know when I put out my next video. Until then, thank you. Have a great day.